Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Rap Podcast with me, Lee G. Joining me as per usual is Hugh. Good evening, Hugh.
Good evening. Flat Cap number 3
Flat Cap
in
3.
attendance tonight.
I believe it's the debut of Flat Cap 3 this evening.
Debut of the blue Flat Cap matched to my blue chinos because I'm stylish.
And this is special because...
This is the one that I aforementioned on last week's pod that I got from Galway.
Oh, okay. So it's got a story. It's got a history.
Yeah. Do you believe he's got blue chinos on? I reckon he's starkers. Go on. He's just saying that. He's claiming to be. Fair enough. Go on.
So joining us this evening on the pod is Welsh Twitter legend Ed Jenks that you just did there. Ed, how are you, my friend?
Shemai, bonsoir. How's it going, guys? All right. Very happy to come on. Thanks for having me. Thanks for having the fucking courage to platform me, frankly. So yeah, like thanks for being that crusading podcast for the courage to platform me to hear the truths.
Well, I'm surprised you haven't got one of your own, mate. I'd have thought this would have been right up your street where you can just sit there and just spout off shit for an hour and people would sit there and listen to you.
I couldn't justify that to myself or frankly to my wife. So I think I already spend too much time procrastinating on Twitter in the morning, especially when I should be working. So no, I think if I have to like produce my own podcast or something, that would push things over the edge and it would just become ridiculous.
So you were telling us just how nice the weather is out there, just to really rub it into everyone back home listening, because obviously with Scarlets, so there's everyone walking around the streets of Llanelli where it's pretty dank, dour, pissing down. Still pissing down. What's the weather like with you?
Well, the summer hasn't stopped, to be honest. It's just been just kept on going. Whereas usually now, this time of year, it would have, the autumn would have set in a bit. But still in like shorts and t-shirts most of the time. And frankly, it's getting on my tits a little bit. Like I was saying, I'd quite happily get back to wearing trousers and not having to use air conditioning at work. So yeah, that's I appreciate it. Probably got no sympathy, but yeah, I'm not trying to be smug. But it's a real first world south of France problem, shall we say? Deal with that. But it is getting worse. It's so ridiculously hot here all the time, and it's just You
must be the only Welshman on the planet that goes, "Oh, I wish it was raining." So
well, you know where you are with the rain, don't you?
Yeah, you can't beat a nice lot of rain, innit?
Yeah. Well, I've got this theory about Llanelli, that Llanelli's only got two types of weather. It's either raining or it's about to rain. And outside of that, there's nothing. That's the only thing. So
it's got different types of rain as well. It's like I was having this conversation with someone the other day. Actually, I was working with somebody from Brazil, and she lived in Ireland, I think, for a few years, and we were talking about the rain. And she was saying about how it's funny that in Ireland they have lots of different words for different types of rain. And so it's kind of the same in Wales, The weather report is not really the weather report. It's just like the rain report. It's like, what kind of rain are we going to have tomorrow? Is it going to be drizzly? It's going to be showers. There's going to be sleet. There's going to be fucking horizontal.
Yeah, I worked with someone from Brazil as well. And we were talking about rain. And I was like, oh, it's like a monsoon out there. And she was like, no. I'll tell you what it's like.
That's not a monsoon.
Yeah. In the country of the rainforest.
Yeah. So, Ed, for people who don't know what you do on Twitter, and there's not many of them, so give us a flavour of what you do on Twitter and how it kind of starts and things like that.
Well, what do? I don't really have a blueprint. I just typically when I tweet, I leave the home at about 6 a.m, take my kids into school, get the office about 8, have a cup of tea, which time I feel too knackered to do much work for about an hour, and I just lie on the thing, and I just procrastinate on Twitter. And it's then when I do most of my tweeting, to be honest, in that sort of early hour or so. And I don't know. I just well, obviously I'm a rugby fan. I've been mad about rugby since I was, an infant, and always enjoyed talking about it. And I think, well, to get serious about it for a moment, probably what started years ago is just being a Welsh person away from Wales, and it was kind of my outlet into just speaking to other Welsh people about rugby and sharing, chat about rugby, but also it's more than that. It's about, the sense of humour, enjoying that as well. And so it's a bit long and rambling, but I don't really have an outlook or a blueprint. I just like to enjoy myself. Have a bit of fun now and again. Sometimes people get the joke, sometimes they don't. Mostly they don't. Especially the South African ones. The Irish ones are kind of hit and miss, 50-50. But I suppose so there's that, and I also just I just like revealing the truth and exposing hypocrisy and all that kind of serious shit as well.
So, who's your favourite international fans? Who's the favourite ones to wind up? Because I quite like Australians, because you can wind them up in the middle of the day and night, and then they all wake up in the morning and then they argue amongst themselves about something you said the night before. And then you wake up in the morning and you've got a whole load of new arguments to go back at, sort of a thing. So I quite like Aussies, but who do you prefer kind of winding up, or who takes the bait the most?
Well, I find the Antipodeans aren't that prolific on Twitter. I don't know if it's just not that much used. I mean, obviously, we have the time zone thing, so you can't really sort of get into a war of words with them live, as it were. You do have to sort of wait until they wake up, which takes a little bit of the edge off. But yeah, for example, Kiwis, don't really have much chat with Kiwis there. Until a few years ago, I didn't really have any exposure to South Africans either, but that's been an eye opener because nowadays. I like to, when there's something on like the World Cup or the Six Nations or something big, I like to make some predictions, as conversation starters, shall we say. And now, basically, 95% of replies are just furious South Africans, oh, you're talking cuck, bro. Just going nuts at me because I tipped South Africa to lose. So now I'm just too tempting to not tip them to lose, if you know what I mean, because all you have to do to infuriate them is to just say that you don't think they're going to win. And if it's among the quarterfinal prediction, so you say quarterfinal, just I think this match will go that way, that match will go that way, and then South African when I said I reckon France will give them a proper good thumping, which I hope they do, but and then 90% of my replies is not anyone talking about any of the other matches, just angry South Africans, furious South Africans, some of them, genuinely furious. It's like I think I better not continue this with them, because they're gonna lose their temper in the real world and give their dog a kicking or something. I don't want that on my conscience, so I try and keep it light.
Just reply to go, are you all right, mate? I've found that the Irish-South African back and forth this World Cup has been exhausting. I'm so bored of it.
Hell. Oh, it's fucking tedious, isn't it? The Irish-South African rugby Twitter loving does my head in. It's the most boring, tedious, and the chat is so shit as well. Come on, lads, give it a break. The US chat.
I do a Twitter space with some South African fans, and when you're talking selection with them, they're actually dead. Head screwed on, and they go, right, okay, well, the game plan is this, and the options are this, and the combinations are this. You compare that to a Wales selection debate where you get people going well, I don't like the way we're playing. We need to get rid of all these players. Yeah. He's rubbish. He's crap. We need to get him in. This guy who's playing for, I don't know, Carmarthen down in the Premiership, he wants to be playing for Wales. Whereas South Africans are more screwed on. But then you get some of the comments, and you're like, all right, okay, it's just a game, mate.
Well, yeah, they take it very seriously. I don't know if it's a difference in sense of humor and and maybe they just don't get the nuance. Not that sounds like talking down. I think they just maybe have a different style of discourse, different sense of humor, and it just doesn't come across like sometimes when you're being a bit wry or taking the piss, for want of a better word.
On the Rap podcast on Monday, all the rest of the boys predicted England to beat Fiji, and I just couldn't bring myself to do that. I couldn't. There's no way in the world I could predict an England win, let alone, even if it was a point or whatever. So I quite comfortably predicted a Fiji win by a good, comfortable 20 points, And the shit I had off that was, I'm not, I'm not putting any money on it. So I'm not going to, it's not like there's money at stake here. And two, it's a prediction.
Yeah.
If you don't like it, then
people lose their minds about predictions, though. They lose their minds.
Yeah. Well, talking about predictions and rugby and things like that, let's talk about the Scarlets, because you're a big Scarlets fan.
Yeah.
How's that going for you at the minute? Because it's pretty rough for the rest of us.
Probably about as well as it's going for anyone, to be honest. I mean, I'm trying to be philosophical about it. I think there's still a lot of good stuff going on down at the Scarlets. I think that given the circumstances, it's a comparatively well-run club. And that's what I get from speaking to people involved, quite high levels at other clubs. I think we do well to get lots of sponsors and, lots of local sponsors and engage in the community. I mean, of course, I'm sure people will have stories saying there's things we don't do well, and I wouldn't dispute that for a moment. But, we still managed to bring through a fairly decent amount of talent, albeit perhaps not the level we were 5-10 years ago. But then that's something which can, I'm sure, be righted with the right investment and work and everything. I mean, I still have this undying belief that we're the greatest club in the world, and that we will become the first European club to do La Decima, 10 European Cups. I still very much tied to that. So
when's that going to start?
Keeps me going.
Yeah,
no, it's not about when it started, but it's about when it finishes. Don't get impatient. But I don't know. I feel like obviously it's frustrating watching this week in, week out, and it's hard to have any real high expectation about the coming season. But I think there are green shoots, and I think we can build off of what's going on. And I think a lot of the problems we have in Welsh rugby with funding and, being in the URC and all this kind of stuff is kind of out of our control. So we've got to roll with it. But no, I think there are green shoots. I think I think what Dwayne is doing is good. I like some of the players we signed for the coming season. Plumtree, Lloyd. I mean, these boys, we signed them on potential. And they're not going to bring us like that power game that perhaps helps. We need to compete at the top level, but they're certainly extremely skillful athletic players, which fits in well with our DNA, and just keep on keeping on, isn't it, really? I mean, I don't know. I mean, probably come on to it about what your expectations are for the season. I mean, do you share? Am I being optimistic? Am I being deluded, or what are your guys' perspectives?
I'd say that 10 European trophies is optimistic, definitely.
Yeah, but that's over the next 12 or 13 seasons, so we've got time to get
there. Okay.
Yeah, sometimes I think it helps to be deluded to be a Scarlet supporter. There was a point last season.
I dispute that we're deluded. I think we're the most balanced fan base, and accurate, balanced, and best looking as well.
Yeah. Well, I spent some time talking to Munster fans, and obviously Munster fans are on top of the world at the moment. And God love them, I don't want to slag them off or anything, but I don't wish I was a Munster fan. I'm glad I'm a Scarlets fan.
Yeah.
Why does that not surprise us?
No, I don't want to get you. I don't want to start you lads off with any beefs and any other podcasts like by talking shit about Munster, but I can if you want. But Munster.
See, but it's good that we're in a position where up is the only way, really, for this. If we end up in a worse league position this season than we were last season, I mean, fucking hell, something's seriously wrong if we end up like that. And I just, like I said, we've signed a lot of good quality players. I keep calling him Titticum, but it's not. It's Titcum. The outside up.
He's one of the Sice boys who came from the University League, isn't he?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about those. I can only assume that if they've got pro contracts at this level, they must be pretty tidy. So that's great. I mean, but it's like punts, you know. It's kind of like what else can we expect? You know, we picked up some gems in the past. I mean, you know, remember signing guys like back in the day, like the Easterby brothers, you know, Di Hodges, Finau, like a lot of this that we built one of our strongest teams of the pro era. Our strongest team of the pro era, you know, on. So we've done it before, and I think it's just we don't really have a choice. But
Tyke Burns,
some of them come off, some of them don't. You know.
Tad Burn is the one.
Oh, Burn, yeah, of course. The Tyke Burn. We made Tyke Burn.
Yeah. Well, you know, we made the Easterby boys.
Like, there would be nothing if it wasn't for us.
But
Islands Rugby World Cup campaign would be nowhere if it wasn't for us developing Tyke Burn.
Yeah. When he was lifting that URC trophy for
he'd be an irrelevant.
Just thought he did it with us. Yes, did it with us.
They should be paying us fucking royalties for Tyke Burn, I'm telling you now.
Well, Easterby. I mean, Easterby's right-hand man in Ireland now. And
yeah, Easterby, fuck me.
Yeah.
The brainchild of their clinical forward dominance over the last 2 or 3 years, the linchpin of their pack, it's all made internationally, like.
Yeah, it was all.
Don't get that. I don't see that getting enough credit, to be honest. So I'm here to change that.
I can see a point in the future where Easterby will come home. I can see a point after the World Cup where his contract ends after the World Cup. He still lives in Wales, and
does he?
Yeah.
He's married. Isn't he married to Sarah Elgan off West Pedwarek?
That's it.
Oh yeah, the TV presenter, isn't he? I think I got that right. Or another TV presenter.
Yeah. I think that's correct actually.
Yeah. And so yeah, he's constantly back and forth, and then you know that takes it out of you after a while, and your kids are growing up and all that kind of stuff. So coming back home to Wales kind of makes sense. And I can see someone finding a vacancy for him, and I hope it's us. I genuinely can.
It'd be amazing, yeah. I mean, coming home to us, or maybe getting involved in the national setup. I mean, to use a sort of wanky buzz term that's going around a lot, but that would be great rugby IP to get back from there. To get back guys like him and McBride eventually, because you know. For all they do my head in, they're doing a lot of things right in Ireland in terms of coaching and development of players. So it'd be great to
have a little bit of that coming back.
Great to tap into that and you know, get some insight. That'll be great.
So let's do URC stuff then. So I mean, pre-season has been pretty shit, and everything's kind of. I mean, we brought some good players in. We've not really seen much of them, in all honesty. What are we expecting from the URC season? What's your thoughts on how we're starting off in South Africa? 2 games in South Africa. What's your thoughts on that?
What do you reckon, Hugh?
I think it's going to be a tough start. I think, you know, you used to be able to look at the league and pick out some easy games, whether it be like the Italian sides or Connacht or someone like that. They're not easy games anymore. I mean, Zebra obviously were pretty poor last season. And Italian rugby sadly doesn't look like it's in a good place at the moment. But other than Zebra, I don't think there's an easy game. And I think if you're going away from home, especially, you're struggling to pick out a win. So, you know, even if the Boks are still away at the World Cup, I still don't necessarily think any URC team, let alone the Scarlets, is going to get many results down in South Africa anytime soon. It's quite funny watching all of the the English find that out in the Champions Cup when they go, oh, URC's this and that, and then they go down and play them themselves and go, oh, this is a bit hard. So it's a tough start. I just don't want to be in the position we were in last time where we're going to Christmas, we haven't won a game, and we're just like the season's over before it's even begun. That's just what I'm hoping to avoid.
I think that we ended the back end of last season was promising. We had a great the third quarter of the season, the run in. We were brilliant. We went on an unbeaten run, got some great results.
It was the reign of terror, as I recall.
Reign of terror, yeah. I saw some guy put that PR spin on. I can't remember who, but so it was reign of terror over the back end of last season, and then we sort of fell off a little bit at the end. Even though in the end we had nothing to play for because we were so cack the first half of the season. But I think if we continue on that, we found our style of play and we found our balance, and we started to look good. And hopefully with boys like Costello coming back from the World Cup, full of confidence, hopefully we can get another season or two out of Cawdor. I think there's every reason to be confident that we can, kick on from last season at least. We haven't lost a significant amount of players, apart from Callum Foley, obviously, although, with his age profile, he's probably only going to get another year out of him max anyway. So I think we can develop and kick on. I mean, it would probably be, the best case scenario, I think, if we could try and qualify for the playoffs. I think we're around mid-table if you just look at it objectively in terms of the quality in our squad and what we can do. So why not, get into that playoffs and take it from there, I just think that we're going to struggle like we have in recent years for power and depth key times during the Six Nations. There'll probably be a lot of kids playing, but we're not in a position where like Cardiff are in, where they're basically going to be playing semi-pros and under 20s half the time. So, and they're in the European Cup as well, and it's like an absolutely moiled week in, week out. But mid-table playoff, that would be great. Maybe win the Challenge Cup.
That'd be nice. Well, yeah. One of the boys on the Cardiff podcast has put a fiver on Cardiff winning the European Cup because the odds are like 500 to 1. So he's gone, well, I'll have a fiver on that, and we'll see how that comes. I mean, I don't think the Scarlets season
in what year? In what year?
Yeah, nobody said what year. They just said that they.
Can we just pause and do a little detour about Cardiff for a second? I'm not going to reveal too much, but I think there's some pretty interesting stuff there happening behind the scenes that could transform them. So I'm not going to say it because I don't want to I'll tell you off air if you want. But I've heard some pretty interesting stuff about that. So Cardiff could be going places in the next few years, I think.
When you say going places, what do you mean?
In a good sense. In a good sense. Not as in going somewhere else or going bankrupt. Although that could have been the case. But I think Cardiff could be into something, some pretty interesting times.
But then we're all tied into this 6-year agreement, and no matter how much money we now get into the club, the playing budget is set by the WRU. So
yes and no. I mean, come on, these WRU agreements, they're not worth the paper they're written on half the time.
Yeah,
and
I was going to say that.
They make it up as they go along. I think if real money were to come into the game, then the WRU are not going to say, oh yeah, but you can't spend more than 3.2 million on. You're not going. I think they're going to be like, yeah, fuck that, go for it, boys. Because as well, they want the clubs in private hands because they have neither the desire, nor the interest, nor the means to run them themselves, like to have union-run teams like you do in Ireland or elsewhere. They need them to be run privately. So I think if significant private investment were to come in, then they wouldn't put a serious roadblock in the way of that. Why would they?
Well, Scarlets have just announced that who's it again? Yeah, Oil for Wales are sponsoring again. So it's nothing. I don't think we're quite at the Dubai investment yet, but the boys are getting there.
Yeah.
Mike Phillips is working on that for us. He's out there in Dubai. He's working hard. I've seen the pictures.
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
Yeah. I thought it was very brave of S4C to give Mike Phillips a microphone and nobody with him and just ask him to go and talk about stuff with people in the crowd. And, so Mike just give
Did
us
they do that?
Yeah.
Jesus.
With Mike Phillips. And you're like, so the editor's got to be on the button there, go to advert. But yeah,
the S4C World Cup coverage is actually, I find, being a lot of fun. I don't watch a lot of it. I just mainly watch the games live on sort of French TV. But when I want to watch playback, or I for example, I missed the Georgia game live. I was watching Sean at a game last weekend away, so I went to see that exactly the same time. So I missed it live. Watched it back on S4C, and the coverage is a lot of fun. Robin McBride and Mike Phillips are hilarious together.
Yeah,
and there's a lot more. There's a lot more like sort of in jokes and intimacy, and in fact, it's all like in Welsh and just like a bunch of people who've known each other for a long time. It's quite funny.
But even Jason Mohammed comes across really well, and I mean, when he's on telly as a news reader or whatever, he's very straight down the line, and he's actually, because he can relax a bit, I guess. He comes across really well, I find.
No, they have some good. I mean, they roll him out for the World Cup. I don't know how much of the rugby stuff he'll be doing, but I really like Lauren Jenkins. I think she's a fantastic rugby journalist and fantastic broadcaster. It's quite good. I mean, I watched that. I hear a lot of people whinging and moaning about the HTV coverage. Watched a bit of that, and it's fucking unwatchable. What were you talking about? I've totally segued into something else completely different now.
Did you see there was a photo on Twitter of my favourite commentator, Shanklin, commentating on the Fiji game from a studio? Yeah, so the actual live commentary, he was watching the game on telly like the rest of us, and then that was being broadcast as if they were in the bloody stadium. I mean, how fucking cheap is that?
Yeah.
And it was like listening to paint dry. It was awful. But there we go. I'm not going to get, because he's very sensitive, is Tom, and he doesn't like it when people say things, especially when you say it on his Twitter timeline. I'm going
to tag him into a tweet now with this video clip of you destroying him.
Yeah.
There's no such thing as bad publicity.
Ça va? Tu vas bien? Salut. Oui, ça va. Ouais. So I just get another beer. Hang on, 2 seconds.
Yeah. See, this is the bit I love about doing interviews with people in different places, is that you get a whole rugby training session going on in the back and someone having a beer. I can't fault that.
Yeah. Do you want me to show you around a little bit? So I'll show you around, right?
Go on. Yeah.
So
this is
for audio listeners.
This
bit might be a bit weird.
Yeah. So I'll try and narrate it as one would an audiobook, to really bring it to life in a vivid sense. So it's about 7 year local time. Here we have the training pitch. We have like 6 training pitches. They're all sort of 5G. And here we have the under-18s doing a training session. So my son plays for them. He's you see him. He's the one with the ridiculous stuff on his head. And they'll be training until about 8 o'clock. Behind me, we have the main stadium, which you can't see here because it's got all these marquees there. This is like all the VIP area. It's like about 5,000 seater stadium. And the club plays in the French 3rd division, so National, but have a fully professional squad, probably a budget comparative to something like the Dragons or something like that. We have a few players at the World Cup as well, so that's quite exciting. Scotland used this installation for, they've used it as their base for the entire World Cup. And they recently left because I believe they got knocked out. Is that true?
Well,
didn't they get robbed? Didn't Scotland get brutally robbed and
Yeah.
knocked out
I
despite
wouldn't know.
being
I wouldn't
a
know.
world record?
Yeah.
Oh, you got your mug through. Amazing. I'm
Yeah,
still
yeah.
waiting for mine.
But
That's from,
Scot-
that's
Is
from
that
Leslie.
that's
on Twitter.
from Leslie, yeah. Amazing.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for mine. So they left behind, and fair play to them, fair play to the Scots, take the piss and all that, but they left behind about 50 grand's worth of state-of-the-art kit,
Wow.
training kit, like a connected scrum machine, I believe. I want to see that, you know. It's like,
Is that one that
machine.
it kind of measures the pressure going up against and it
Yeah.
can push back and stuff? Yeah.
So the Scotland, the SIU got a long relationship with Stad Nice. They used to be shareholders in the club until like around before COVID, because they had this thing whereby because they've only got 2 pro teams, they wanted a decent level of rugby beneath the pro teams to develop players. There's a big problem in Wales as well, right? We just twatting around with the Premiership to try and do something with it. They do this Super Six thing or something in Scotland, which I don't think really works
7
either.
now. There's 7
Yeah,
of them
right.
now.
So their strategy a few years ago was like, we're just going to invest in a French second, third tier club and send our best players over there because it's a much higher level of rugby. It's basically pro rugby. It's like second tier level pro rugby. So they did that, and a number of current Scottish internationals actually played out here. What's the boy who fell down the steps when he was pissed and ended up at the World Cup? The hooker.
Yeah, just before.
Cherry,
Yeah.
Dave Cherry.
Yes.
Dave Cherry
Yeah.
started off his pro career in Nice, which is quite ironic, seeing as how it seemed to have ended here as well now. Among others, so we had a few, and so they basically, there's a long relationship with the SIU. They're not shareholders in the club anymore because the club went through the leagues, and I think they needed more serious investment. And it just, the level it's at now, you can't just bring in promising under 18, under 20 boys and chuck them in. It's just far too high level of rugby. So
who was the first person from the SIU who floated that idea? It's like, what are we going to do about developing young players? You know, why don't you buy me a plane ticket to Nice? I'm like, what? Like, no,
Yeah.
trust me.
There's
Yeah,
sun
stick
and
with this.
Yeah.
But I think it did work. It brought in a few players who ended up becoming first team regulars in Edinburgh and Glasgow. And I think it was not a bad strategy, but it obviously required a lot of investment because to run a club even at this level is big money. You know, Nice are currently close to the top of National. They're trying to get into Pro D2. And, you know, Pro D2 budgets are bigger than pretty much anything in the URC outside of Ireland. So, you know, it's not those clubs who are aspiring to that are not really development tools in that sense. You know, there's a lot of pressure week in, week out to win your games and to have strong squads. So yeah.
When I was visiting,
so it ran its course. It ran its course, and then COVID came along, and then they just
knocked
it off.
Yeah, when I was visiting the south of France, I did get a sense of like, oh no, rugby is actually big here. Like, people properly care about rugby, and that's not like it is in England. Even in somewhere like the Midlands, which is normally a rugby like place in England, it's like, oh no, in the south of France, no, rugby is like the sport.
Oh yeah, it's huge. Like, to give you an idea, well, anecdotally, I mean, we have away fans. We have like hundreds, sometimes over 1,000 away fans for a match here. When historical clubs like Narbonne, Béziers, these are big clubs with big followings, which are really the heartbeat of their towns. A bit like Llanelli and Scarlets. You know, it's very similar to South Wales, or what it once was in South Wales, especially with towns like Ponty, Llanelli, Neath. You know, these clubs revolve around the rugby club. Last year, when Sean was in the under-16s, they got to the semi-final of the Championship Cup, and it's the first time a club from Nice, because the academy is quite young, has got to that. So it was about a couple of thousand people in the stadium. They played against Bourgoin, who brought down about 300 or 400 fans for an under-16s match, right? So with drums and flares and all kinds of mad shit.
Wow.
It's brilliant. And this is for like an under-16s match. So this is the kind of passion you have. Nice is a big city club. So Nice is the 5th biggest city in France. It's primarily a football city, although it does have a rugby history. But the strength of rugby around here goes to Toulon, which is just down the road, you know. Toulon is the rugby place. But Nice is a big city. It's quite a wealthy city. So there's big plans to develop the club and to bring it through. But yeah, to So there's in the south of France, there's incredible passion and clubs which are incredibly well supported, like in National, which is again the third tier. You have clubs which regularly draw in thousands, every week. Clubs, better attendances than anything. Some of the worst attendances in the URC. I mean, they put like the Italian teams and even some of the Welsh teams at times to shame with their attendances.
But see, that's what we
proper big,
yeah, that's what we need more of. Is like we're talking about the drums and the flares and the. It's an event. If you're 16 and you're running out and people are on the drums and all this kind of stuff, and you're gonna love that game. Do you know? And
yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's amazing, and but you can't manufacture that. That's the thing. It's either part of the culture. Like I think you get that different degrees in different rugby countries. So I know that in, for example, Ireland and South Africa, schools rugby is a big thing, right? So you see, it's just part of their rugby history and DNA, whereas it's not really never been a thing in Wales. So you go to schools matches where you have like thousands of people watching and people are, super passionate about it and all that. And, that's their thing. In France, it's always been club rugby. So there's an extremely passionate and loyal following for club rugby in the south of France. And they fostered that for over a century. I mean, the Bouclier de Brennus, the French championship, it's been going on since the 19th century, So you can't just build that thing overnight. And that's, I mean, this could be a whole other podcast, so I'm not going to bore your tits off about it. But this is my whole thing about regions and the URC and all this. It's just like totally manufactured constructs to sort of build something out of nothing with no real pedigree. And, it's always destined to be a bit tepid, to be honest, I think. But that's the strength of French rugby, though. That is the strength of French rugby is, and as you see at this World Cup, I mean, it's basically props up the professional game. I mean, I saw a stat the other day about how many players at the World Cup are employed in France. It's like the majority, like especially if you talk about tier 2, the majority of tier 2 players, and I'm thinking like 80-90%, something ridiculous, are employed in French rugby. I mean, there's 16 clubs put into 14. There's about 45-50 fully pro rugby clubs in France with fully pro squads and academy systems and all the rest of it. And it's just mind blowing. There's nothing anywhere near that anywhere else in the world.
No. Well, I'm going to start a campaign now for this season to get somebody inside Parker Scarlets. One person's got to bring a trumpet for a game, and then someone's got to bring a big drum, and then we're just going to sing and have songs all the way through, and that's going to be the start of the future way that we do the Scarlets. That's my mission now for this season, is to make Scarlets more. I mean, we need the sun, I'll give you that. So, but to make it more French, so we'll have some trumpets and some drums. Maybe
you wear your
some
beret. Wear your beret to a match. That'll be a start.
We already have the best fans. That's the great thing about the Scarlets. I mean, we are the best fans. Like, there's nothing even close.
You see, I was listening to the Dragons podcast the other day, and apparently they have the best fans.
Bollocks! No, there's nothing. Like, you go the Scarlets away. Like, for example, I go a lot of Scarlets away trips in France. It's just amazing, the atmosphere, the singing, the passion. It's brilliant.
And I went to Scarlets versus London Irish when London Irish were in Reading, God rest their souls, a couple of years ago, and there was like 3 times as many Scarlets fans as there was London Irish fans at that game.
Yeah, but that's right. We are a proper club. We are a proper club with a proper fan base and a proper history and all the rest of it. And that's how that's how you build it. You can't construct that. And
we still hate the Ospreys, regardless of which club it is, whether it's Neath or whether it's
who aren't a proper club. We're just a total construct.
God, I can just see so many clips coming out of this. We just go, here's
do I get in? Is there an Ospreys podcast?
Yeah,
Like they don't have fucking Ospreys, do they?
Yeah.
I'm surprised about that. Okay.
He does them all.
I do them all. I started them all, mate. I need to wind somebody up.
You slag. He's on all of them. He's like,
Yeah, but this is where my heart is.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So let's talk Wales and the World Cup then. Let's what have you
Right.
made of the World Cup? Obviously, you're out there. You're
Yeah.
in the area. What have you made of it from where you are?
I think it's been great. It's created so much interest. Just so I coach the under-12s here in Nice, and we've got like about 70 kids, and we had to turn away loads more. We just didn't have the capacity.
Wow.
And that's the World Cup. I mean, it's a big club anyway in terms of having lots of, average 50, 60 players per age group. But yeah, it's just been mad. And the interest it's generated, the buzz, it's been great. I was here. I went to all 3 games in Nice. I went to Wales, Portugal, Japan, England, and Italy, Uruguay, which is a really great game. And yeah, it's been magnificent. So it's been a pleasure to be involved with it and to see it. And I'm really, really looking forward to going to Marseille. So I'm going to the match on Saturday. I got some friends coming over. We're all going to the match. Go for a couple of days in Marseille. That would be amazing. And I'm so glad we've drawn Argentina as well. If for no other reason than it'll be a great atmosphere and we'll have a great laugh and yeah. There's
So
quite a few Argentinian boys at the club, so we've been having a bit of chat about that. Yeah.
So Hugh, what are you making of team selections? Obviously, Faletau is the key one.
Mhm.
And then, do you risk bigger to start with, just coming back? Or I don't think
Oh yeah.
Anscombe's going to be back. But what's your call on selection and for
No,
Saturday?
Bigger will play. As I've got no doubt in my mind that Dan Bigger's going to play. He's retiring after the World Cup, so he doesn't want that Australia game going off in the 10th minute, whatever it was, to be his last cap. So he'll play in this game. I've got absolutely no doubt. This is how he's made. This is how he's built. I think Faletau.
100%.
Faletau is obviously a miss, and we're a worse team without him. But I don't think it's an end of the world injury. I don't think it's like if Sexton went down for Ireland or
No.
a player like that. I think we're better with him in the team, but I don't think it's game over without him. In 2019 we didn't have him either, and we got to the semi-final without him for that as well. So I think Wainwright just moves across to number 8. And then the question about is who goes to number 6, and that's the debate, isn't it? Is do you put a 6 at 6, or do you put Jack Morgan at 6 and have Tommy Reffell come in at 7? Personally, I'd go Morgan and Reffell. I think that's probably the future for us anyway. I just don't think. I think Lydiot is coming to the end, and I don't think Shunza is ready. So I would go Jack Morgan over at 6 and Reffell in at 7. And then other than that, it's going to be identical to the team that beat Australia.
So there's been a lot of chat today about the structure, basically the back row and who goes where and all of that kind of stuff. So what's your thoughts on the back row, Ed? Because this has literally filled my timeline for today. It's just been constant. What do you make of the back row selection?
I think I agree with everything that he was just said. I think obviously Faletau is our best option at 8. I think he struggled for the last couple of years to deliver on a consistently high level that we've become used to. I trust Wainwright to do a great job at 8. So I think that selection is natural. Wainwright to 8. I really rate Wainwright, always have done. So, glad to see him playing back at his best. So I'm happy with that, albeit, we can't have anything happen to him now because that we are really struggling after that. The rest of the back row selection is interesting. I think I'd agree with you. I think Reffell at open side and moving Jack over is probably the right way to go. Albeit, I would, if we had like a prime Lydiot, or if Shunza was ready, I'd prefer like a proper big six who's gonna get you that quick ball, because I think that's where we are going to struggle against big. I think we might, especially now with Matera out. I think we'll be all right, even if we have a smaller back row. But I do worry if we get like an Ireland or a New Zealand in the semi-final. We need that like big, powerful athleticism, especially to combat them around the breakdown and try and combat them on the gain line, because we don't have those big athletic back rowers otherwise. And I don't think that. Well, I would disagree with you. I think that going forward, I think it's one of Reffel or Morgan, not both. And then we do need a proper six, because I think our back row it lacks the size and athleticism otherwise to compete at a really high level, to do really, whether it's a big, like smash merchant like Lydiate, who's going to get you that, put in those high tack counts and get you that quick ball and slow down the opposition on the gain line, or if it's more athletic six, like somebody like Plumtree, for example, or Chunza, if either of them come through. I don't think essentially having two open sides is going to, I think it lacks a bit of balance, especially in terms of line out. I mean, I know here at an elite level, at the club, for example, they were talking the other day that out of the back five, you need 4 line out options to be a serious team. And I don't think that, already with Reffel and Morgan, you've got 3 line options by default there. So I think you need a six which is a bit more rounded. And I think then you just let Morgan and Reffel just tear each other to shreds to be the best, a bit like Warburton and Tipuric did for a decade, and we got so much out of those 2 players. But I think they got a lot out of each other as well. I mean, I don't think either of them would have been as good as they were if they didn't have the other one and that pushing them in that competition. So I think that's amazing to have 2 such great talents going forward, taking us through the next decade more or less. So I think that's magnificent. But we do need to find a proper six. But for this World Cup, I think Hugh is right. It's got to be Reffel and Morgan, because there's nothing else there really.
I think the thing with the back row as a whole in Wales at the minute, we're totally blessed with sevens. Even at the Scarlets with McLeod and Dan Davis, 2 international quality sevens. Ospreys have got 2 international sevens. Cardiff have got about 6 international sevens, and the Dragons have got 2. So sevens, everyone's got a bucket load of them. Number 8, it's slightly more difficult, and I would like to see Shunza coming in at number 8. I think having a 6'6", 19-stone athlete pick the ball up at the back of the scrum and go at a tiny little outside half, maybe for the Barbarians game is a chance to kind of show him what he can do, sort of thing. But yeah,
that's kind of what Gatland tried to do with Seb Davis, wasn't it?
Yeah, but I think Shunza can do it. I genuinely think Shunza at the back of a scrum. I'd love to see him pick up a ball and just have a run at some tiny little, preferably an English outside half. I'd love to see a wee little English guy going, fuck me, look at the size of him, as he runs over the top of him. I think that would be a good experience that the world could share, and just watching Shunza run over the top of an English.
Just on a side note, have I told you my theory of who I think is going to be wearing the England number 10 jersey in 3 years' time?
Go on then.
Callum Sheedy.
Oof. No, but hang on a second. He doesn't even qualify for England, does he?
He qualifies
for
Ireland, Wales, and England.
Yeah, he does.
He qualifies for 3.
No, he qualified for England initially. He qualified for Ireland, right? That's true. He could play for Ireland, but I don't think he could play for England because he qualified for England through residency. It has to be through ancestry. It can't just be because you previously qualified once upon a time on residency. I think that's out the window now. But I think he could still, for example, play for Ireland if he doesn't get picked by Wales in 3 years. But I think the England thing is done.
Hugh will have a
Unless,
spreadsheet, mate. There'll be a whole list of spreadsheets.
actually, can I take all that back? Because I think Hugh knows a lot more about this kind of like rugby geek kind of shit than me. So he's probably going to put my pants down now.
You throw. I'm going to
Actually,
research that in
Hugh.
the background. You've thrown me.
Actually, Hugh, I think you'll find he's gonna fucking ruin me now, isn't he?
He's going to
No,
spend
I'll
the
have to
rest of
research
the
that
week.
in the background. He'll have everyone's got a granddad from everywhere. Everyone's got a nana from everywhere.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. So, right, let's quickly talk Argentina and predictions for the World Cup. Where do we think Wales are going to end up? What's the score on Saturday? So, Ed, score prediction on Saturday. It doesn't need to be realistic. It's just a prediction.
I think if we play like we did against Australia, then I think we'll do really well, and I'm quite confident that we will, because as we've seen against Georgia and Portugal, we sort of look a bit uncomfortable. We're a team that doesn't like to be in the driving seat and have the ball a lot. So I think we actually play better against better teams than we do against weaker teams when we're expected to take the initiative, because we're not really an initiative-taking team at the moment. Against Argentina, obviously, they're another, powerful tier 1 team, and they're going to expect to put their own stamp on the game. So I think we could quite imagine a scenario where we let them have a lot of early ball, let them make mistakes and capitalise, and that's what I hope will happen. Something similar to Australia, and if that happens, I think we could be quite comfortable. Another scenario is where they play really well, and I think they do have big games in them. They can beat anyone on their day. So if they come and they deliver a big game, it could go toe to toe. In that scenario, I would like to think that we'd have the superior game management and kicking game, especially late down, to close it out. So in that case, I'd say Wales by 7 or 8 points, taking control of the game late on. Actually, I had an interesting chat earlier. So you remember Luciano O'Cara, the Italian fly half?
Yeah.
So he's at the club. Like, his son is one of the kids that I coach, and I was chatting with him earlier, and he's Argentinian, and he was chatting with Martin Freitas, the number 8, and I had a chat with them, and they were both saying that they really hoped that Argentina picked Sanchez at 10 on Saturday, which I agreed with, because I think they looked like a far more controlled team. Carreras at 10 is, he's a flamboyant run-in fly half, but like World Cup knockout rugby, I think he's got a little bit found out in the big games, and I think you need somebody who's going to guide you on the field, make the right decisions at the right time, kick the points, potentially kick the drop goals when it's needed, and I think Sanchez is that man. They both seem to think the checker was going to go with Carreras, so that selection is key for Argentina. I hope they go with Carreras, because I think that will play heavily in our favour. I don't rate him as a game controlling fly half, whereas Sanchez, he's been there, got the t-shirt, he's one of the best in that sense. So that'll be interesting to see which way they go. I'm crossing my fingers they pick Carreras.
Yeah, okay. Same. Every game they've played, when they brought Sanchez off the bench, they've immediately looked better as soon as he comes on the pitch.
I mean, Sanchez is basically like our Dan Bigger, and Carreras is like their Costello. He's great. Although I think Costello is better. I would trust I'd far more trust in Costello. Like if he had to start on Saturday, I'd be fairly comfortable with that. I think he'd be all right. But Carreras, I think he's a bit of a loose cannon. I wouldn't necessarily, if I was an Argentinian fan, I wouldn't necessarily trust him to manage the game for me.
So Hugh, your prediction, your expectations of the game, and your prediction, your score prediction.
Well, I've been doing a bit of research on some other stuff today, and I've found that if you look back at all Wales's games so far in 2023, we have conceded more penalties than our opposition in all but one game. So, whenever you hear a pundit talking about giving away too many penalties or whatever it is, pinged off the park, it's not actually an indicator of whether you're going to win the game or not. It turns out, against the stats, but I think it is going to be one of those games where it's just going to be behind the sofa type watching. Do you remember France last time, where they'd had a man sent off early on, and we were top of the world at the time, and it was that dodgy straight up in the air rip that went down, couldn't prove that it had gone forward, and therefore the try was allowed. I think it's going to be one of them. I can see Kremer getting sent off in like the second minute, and then they're still leading with like 3 minutes to go, and we're camped on their line. I don't think it's going to be a good watch. I think it probably I would go. I can see us winning it by 2 or 3.
See, I think you boys just lack the belief that is needed in Welsh rugby at the minute. I think we're just going to take them apart. I think from the first kickoff, they're going to be. They haven't really done anything in the World Cup so far.
Hang on, I did say if we play like against Chile, we'll absolutely batter them. I reckon that could happen too. No, I honestly do. I think if we play like that and we keep our foot on their throat and we control the game with Anscombe Bigger just running the show, I reckon Argentina, like you say, I think you were about to say, they make a lot of mistakes, right?
Yeah. They've not really set the world alight. I mean, neither have we, but we've scored a lot of tries. And I just think that, there is a big performance coming from that Welsh side. I genuinely think that there's a lot of something left in that Welsh side. So I'm going to go Wales by 20 and fuck them, because that's the way it is.
Can I have a moan, right? It's just a moan on that point. If we could beat them by 20 and still there'll still be people not rating us. Still everyone is saying, but they're still shit, and like, the weak side of the draw and all that, like bollocks. There'll still be people going on about that. And frankly, I don't know if I could cope with a semi-final Ireland week. That would just ruin me. I don't know if I could.
See, I would much rather get Ireland in a semi-final than in New Zealand.
100% agree with that. 100%. 100%. I think Ireland are the better team, but at the end of the day, they're Ireland. You look at them, thinking, okay, we throughout the course of our rugby history, we've had the better of Ireland. We know the players week in, week out. They've all beaten those players on any given day, whether it's at a club level or an international level. They're going to say the team talk is, boys, fucking Ireland. We don't need to motivate them and say, look, these boys, you all beaten them. You fucking hate them all. I know you all hate them. So let's just get into them. And I think there won't be the psychological edge where you get with New Zealand. We haven't beat them in 70 years, and we're lacking that self-belief. Even though Ireland, I think objectively, are a better team than New Zealand. I think that's a more. It feels like a more winnable match. It feels like a match we could just become completely attritional and crazy and won on passion. Whereas a New Zealand match is not going to be like that.
No.
Yeah.
So
the better rugby team is going to win, and that's probably going to be them.
So
as Ireland, we could drag them down to a level, and we could just it's like get into them a little bit, get O'Mahony to do something stupid. If Sexton has an off day, we just need somebody to get into Sexton and make him. Well, this is for next week's podcast, right? I'm already thinking about it. It's already in my headspace,
That'll just wind the Scottish up, because we're sitting there thinking about what happens when we win the quarterfinals, while they're going, "Hey, we might be home for the start of the URC." So, it's a very different. So, right, one final prediction, just because I know there's a couple of English people that listen. Score between England and Fiji. So, Ed, score between England and Fiji.
I'm saying I think it'll be an absolutely awful game. I think Fiji are struggling for form and they're struggling for inspiration, but I still think that they will pull something out the bag late on in a low-scoring game, and I think they'll win 17-15 against England, who will probably only kick penalties. And I think there'll just be one moment of magic late on. It'll be a bit like the Samoa game, except it'll be Fiji who has the last word, and they'll send them packing.
Fiji are,
and the whole world will rejoice as one in a warm and loving embrace.
Apart from Nick Knowles, who's going to go and live in Scotland. So,
is Nick Knowles? Nick Knowles, is he the guy who presents the rugby on HTV England?
No. He does
that's DIYSOS.
Yeah, DIYSOS. Yeah, he got involved. He's a minor Z-list celebrity that presents quite a decent program that relies on a lot of other people to do work for free. And then
okay.
when we beat Fiji, he was all over it about, the referees this and Wales
I saw
lucky
that.
and so.
But I thought he was the bloke who presents the rugby on HTV because
He doesn't
they
look
look the same.
No,
they do
They
look
look the
alike,
same.
but no, it's just generic.
Because I was when Wales were down in Port, there was a load of fans down in East, and I was chatting to someone. I was giving some Nick Knowles chat because I'd seen when he's on. I thought he was the HTV because I don't watch the telly. Like I've been over here for like almost 20 years, so I don't know anything about the telly, who's on the telly or what the TV shows are like. I saw him. I thought he was the TV presenter from HTV.
No, he's just a Z-list dickhead that decided to wade in. Well, and then he went, but I've got family from Swansea. I can't be racist against the Welsh. I've got family in Swansea. And his family are going, fuck off, son. You're in England now. You can disappear. So,
yeah, you can fuck right off.
Yeah. Anyway, on that note, gents, my prediction is obviously Fiji by 20. Yeah, I was going to say, what's your prediction? What's your score prediction?
So Fiji are like Samoa but better.
Yeah.
So I'm going Fiji by 5.
There you go. See, that's more like the kind of Wales to win, England to lose. You can't get better than that to finish a podcast.
Yeah, that's what the audience is after, isn't it? That's what puts the viewership numbers up. It's crowd pleasing stuff, crowd pleasing content. What do you reckon about the other two then quarters? You quickly, what do you reckon about those two?
I cannot call France All Blacks. I think the thing that favours France is it's their home World Cup. Sorry, France Springboks. Sorry.
Yeah.
I can't call that. I think the thing that's in France's favour is their home World Cup, and they've got the romance on their side, which is a real thing. And I think the Springboks are massively underrated. I think they're excellent players, 1 to 15. I can't call it. I think I'm going to go France just because it's at home. I think that's literally the deciding factor.
I think France will win that easily. I don't get all the chat, to be honest. I think they're a superior team. I think they're going to have more power, finesse than South Africa. I think they're going to be inspired. I think they're making a mistake if they pick Dupont. That's for certain. I think if they pick Dupont, that's a marketing thing because he's on his face is on everything over here at the moment. Luku is one of the best criminals in the world, and he plays his club rugby with Jalibert. They run like clockwork, and they should back him.
Exactly, that's my point.
And if they want to get, but it's not. You're talking about Luku like he's fucking Gareth Cooper or something. He's some fourth choice club scrum half. Like he's not. He's one of the best scrum halves in the world. He'd be starting pretty much any other nation. He has intrinsic understanding with Jalibert. They should start him. And if they want to nurture Dupont back in, they should give him 20 minutes off the bench. But I think I can see France doing a job on South Africa, 15 points.
That's just because you don't like South Africans and you enjoy a Twitter battle with them, mate.
I do like South Africans. That's genuinely my opinion. I just think that I think France, if France click, as they have done, they will blow you away. I mean, remember what they did to England at Twickenham last year, or this year.
Yeah.
They are capable. They destroyed them. I mean, the result in the first match against New Zealand, heavily flattered New Zealand. That could have easily been a 30-point massacre. So I think South Africa are not the team they were 4 years ago. And yeah.
Okay. So let's wrap it up with then who's winning the World Cup. So who's lifting that in a couple of weeks' time? Go on, Ed, you're first.
Wales.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's the hammer.
Who's finishing on that one?
We finish on that.
No, I don't know. I know what you reckon, boys. What you boys reckon?
I backed the All Blacks before the tournament, and I'm sticking to it. I'm not changing my mind again. I've changed my mind too many times, so I'm sticking with the All Blacks.
My serious prediction was France. I stick with that.
Yeah, and I said Ireland before the World Cup, and I am sticking with that, even though that would mean that we get knocked out in the semis again. But
that'd be fucking unbearable. You can't. I
know.
God, I don't even want to think about it.
All right. Yeah. Anyway, on that note, gents, Ed, it's been an absolute pleasure, mate. I hope you've enjoyed it. And you're welcome back anytime during the season, especially if it's going well. that would be good. But yeah, thank you for coming on tonight, mate. Thank you for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure. Gents, enjoy your rugby, and see you again next week. All the best.
Diolch yn fawr,
Cheers, mate.
boys. Merci beaucoup.